Hi, welcome. So today we're talking about the fear of street photography and trying to remain unobtrusive and being in the shadow so that you can take photographs without people really noticing that you're there.
Yeah, so let's say that one of the things that we encounter a lot when we run the course is that people have a real fear of shooting other people without their permission and being noticed. They have a fear of confrontation, and I think this is a very good subject to talk about and how to go past this fear. And the trick is to be invisible and
I've definitely noticed whenever I do talks to camera clubs or online, one of the first questions always is how do I get over the fear, or do you have to ask people's permission? And they're always the same answers: is no, you don't, and you need to get over that fear. And there are techniques you can use, and just thought we'd share or just chat about a few of those today with you. But before we go any further, just give us a big thumbs up if you can, and like it, and follow and subscribe us. But what's the first one, Flavio?
Well, I would say that the first one, I think, is one of the most important things. You see a subject, you like it, you want to shoot it. Don't stare at them. Don't make eye contact, because as soon as you do, they will know what you're doing, and it's almost like a sixth sense. Even if you have a tiny camera and you don't look like something, you make eye contact, they will know something is up.
I totally agree with you. I don't think the size of the camera matters at all.
No.
People say use a small camera, or it doesn't really matter. You're there, and we are bigger than the camera itself. But I totally agree with you. Don't look at people. Try and sort of look to the side, or as if you're not doing something, or you're doing something different to do with them. But as soon as you make eye contact with someone, it's kind of game over, really.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do make eye contact and you still want to, do that photograph, you've then got to engage with them and say hi, and maybe just say, do you mind if I take your picture, please? And you've got a really interesting face. But that's kind of getting away from street photography, and more about sort of street portraiture.
Yes.
I think the other thing is try and dress conservatively.
Yes.
In subdued colours, blacks, greys, blues. Don't go wear anything sort of bright red or bright yellow, so you stick out. Try and sort of be in the shadows, if you like. So be aware of what you're wearing.
Absolutely. And I think another thing that comes from that is try to be natural. Look like you're doing something normal, you're doing something absolutely, let's say, not shifty.
Sure.
Because as soon as you start looking sneaky or like you're doing something that you shouldn't do, you try to hide, etc., you stick out like a sore thumb.
Totally agree with you. The minute you start looking shifty and awkward, again, it's game over. You might as well move on.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to go into that mode and look at someone and then look down, and it's kind of game over.
Yeah.
I think if you're in that position, you are looking down. One of the techniques I found to use is using the back screen of your camera.
Yes.
Especially if you've got a flippy out one. Just flip it out and just look at the back screen as if you're reviewing your pictures. And you can, if you've got a touch screen, use that on the Sony A9s that we do. We're lucky that we have got that touch screen facility, and quite often I'll just be sort of standing there and just touch the screen when I want to take the picture, or just click the button. But use the back screen of focus, and they're not even aware because I've not made any eye contact with them at all.
Exactly. I would say another way to shooting somebody, you can actually get to shoot them fairly close this way, is if you're shooting in the direction of somebody, just shoot, and they might be looking at you, they might be wondering what you're doing, but you might shoot and then just look past them.
Sure.
And then just take another picture and keep on looking past them. And this way you can even start walking closer and just getting almost inside their bubble, let's say, and still shoot them, because you're still looking past them. They will start wondering what the hell you're shooting, but they don't realize really you're shooting them.
I think it's one of the advantages of using a shorter lens, like slightly more wide angle, in that you can almost just be pointing it past someone, but because you're on a maybe 28, 24 or 35mm lens, you've got them completely in frame. In fact, you've actually got them on the third, which can be more beneficial to the scene, so to speak. I think also, I think the other thing is, you want to be working quickly. So if you're seeing the subject that you want to photograph, you need to move it a bit closer because you're on a slightly wider lens. Just go in and do it, and be positive about it. Don't sort of flap around and start working out the camera settings. That it's really important that you kind of know those camera settings. And I'm going to go a little bit off tangent here, Flavio, because I think one of the things, and it always amazes me as street photographers, that we don't practice.
Yes, true.
And yet, if you look at any other hobby or any other sportsman or craft, these people put in hundreds or thousands of hours practice. And if you look at an athlete or a footballer, they're practicing before a football match. They're kicking the ball up, stretching, doing all these little things. And as a photographer, we just think, well, let's just go out there and take pictures. We don't practice our focusing. We don't practice just moving the camera quick, or moving through the menus quick, or just changing the settings around really, really quickly.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. That is such a puzzling thing in the photography world, that people think that, I have a good eye, I can just go and shoot. That's not true. We need to practice, as you said, camera settings, using our tools. We need to practice our eye. We need to practice everything.
I know as a pro, and again, it's one of the things that I don't sort of think about. A lot of people comment to me on the courses, and they just say, you don't seem to think about the camera. It's just like an extension of your arm. And they often say, like, what settings have you got? And I said, well, I don't really know. It's just what it needs to be, and they're all kind of second nature. And I can remember doing, when I first started out in photography, and I had a manual focus lens, and then when I moved over to a Leica and a manual focusing, sometimes I'd just sit at home when I was watching the telly, and I'd just be focusing on different parts in the lounge, now and again, and then put it down and then do it again. And it's amazing how quick you become at doing these little things.
Absolutely. And this is something that even just doing exactly the same thing, focusing on different parts of the house, trying to move the focus point, trying to change the ISO and the aperture or the shutter speed, trying to keep the exposure at the same level. All these things, even for people that are at the beginning, are so valuable to understand how to use your camera.
It really hit home to me recently, because I've just bought a medium format camera, Hasselblad, that I used to use years and years and years ago, and but I've got out of the method of using this thing, and it did come back, but I didn't really practice. And I just went out on the street and I started doing some photography, and I just thought to myself, you're so slow, and it's so I'm there and I'm trying to focus it, and I'm not turning the lens around the right way, and because I'm working out which way it needs to be, and all these little things. And it just shows that you're inexperienced, and then people sort of look at you and think, what are you doing? Whereas if you know what you're doing, you just go bang in there.
On this point, there is one little anecdote about Gary Winogrand. Apparently one of his ways of shooting people very, very close was to look like a complete dork behind the camera. So he was just looking at the camera puzzle, just changing some settings and just taking a picture, and then just looking at the camera and changing the settings, and then taking another picture. And he was shooting you all the time and just taking the looking like he didn't know what he was doing. And people was just considering him an amateur, and they wouldn't pay attention to him taking the picture. So there is one side to that, but you need to know what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. I when we were in Myanmar and also Vietnam, they have a big problem with these beetle nuts, and so the people's teeth, particularly the men's teeth, are particularly bad. And one of the people on the course said, why don't you do a project on it? And I thought, yeah, no problem. And I thought it started taking a few pictures of this, and I had to work out a technique how to get pictures of just their teeth, and obviously them smiling, because as soon as you say, can I take a picture of you, people
they do smile.
Yeah, and you need to get up pretty close, because I was doing this on a 35mm lens, so I was up sort of this close to people, and I'd just go up to them and I'd sort of focus like that, and then I'd sort of just tip the camera down a little bit, so I knew exactly where to do, because I didn't want their eyes in it, so I was cutting it off here, and I'd kind of say something and make them laugh, and they'd laugh, and I go, no. And that was it. And it's amazing. I've got lots and lots of pictures like that, a nice little set. We'll share a few with you so you can see what I mean. I'm not suggesting you go and do that, but it's just something that I knew the settings, and I knew how to sort of go in and get what I wanted.
Absolutely, yeah. So what else are you thinking about?
I think the only other thing I can think of at the moment off the top of my head is on your camera, turn the sounds off.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, that annoying beep and the flashes and the focusing light, all these things need to be turned off.
I do that all the time, and even when I use a flash at in sort of events I'm photographing, that red light sort of piercing, it just, people sort of look up and think, what's that? Turn those focusing lights off, and turn those beep 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 beep.
Yeah.
And even turn off, if you've got a silent camera, turn that shutter sound off, because if you click it and you're shooting on burst mode, people look at it and think, what's that? Whereas you could be shooting on 20 and 30 frames a second on these Sonys. Not that I recommend that sort of taking that many pictures at once, but they would never know because it's totally silent.
Yeah.
And then you can just go back and shoot hard and edit hard.
Yeah. And I think that might be about it for today.
Yeah. So once again, thanks for tuning in. Big thumbs up, please. And
subscribe.
Subscribe. Any comments are more than welcome. And we look forward to seeing you real soon. It's goodbye from Mark.
And Flavio. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.